every experience nature will give me with is incredibly not only useful but very, very worthy. And one of mine is very, very much appreciating nature and self-acceptance.
On these interview series, I explore the way nature can inspire music, and I'm happy to have as my first guest Laura Vella. In our conversation, we explore the element of fire and how nature in general are reflected on the album 2, Wings of Ember. The interview series are called The Humming Mountain, and I am your host, Letizia.
Hi, it's so good to be here and be part of this, actually. Looking forward.
Thank you. So you are known as the singer, and I would also say driving force behind the band Tvinna, and you're also a vocalist in the German folk band Faun. Tvinna's newest release is called 2 Wings of Ember, and it is a second chapter in the line of 4 structured around the elements water, fire, earth, and air. And 2 is conceptually based around fire, and whereas the first chapter was based around water. All these elements, they represent a phase in life. Can you, for people who are not familiar with this first album, elaborate on the element of water and what phase in life stands for?
So, of course, when we decided to create a full cycle on life and around the elements, we thought, what is the first state of life? Is it childhood? Is it actually the unknown before that? So even before we are born? And what is life? Is it only the physical experience, or is it more? Is there more to life? And we decided that there's actually more to life than being in a physical state. So whatever, or however you define that. And that, of course, we said, like, it's the soul, and we don't remember ourselves how it was before we came to this earth, but we kind of pictured us being in the huge numb, in the huge darkness before life. And we definitely linked that to water, because also, I mean, it's a scientific norm and belief that life descends from water. So the first animals and the first life came out of the water. That was one of the aspects why we linked life to it. But also us as humans, first moment we are conceived into physical being, we are dependent on water. We grow in our mother's bellies in water, and we have blood floating through our veins. We are actually one living being. That's the second aspect why we linked it to water. And the third one was actually that so many old cultures and also religions or mythologies really believe that the earth is born out of water. For example, Germanic and Nordic mythology, it's like 12 rivers that the earth and actually Ymir is born out of. So that was kind of, it really jumped into our faces that we had to take water.
So it is almost a kind of pre-consciousness concept. Because what I initially thought is being in a womb, being in water.
Yeah.
But this is basically like a phase before, more or less.
Kind of, yeah. I would say it's everything that is before the first breath you have to take on your own. Everything before that. So really, pre-consciousness is pretty good, but I would even say that maybe it's already some sort of consciousness there. We can't really put into words because we can't remember really, but I'm pretty sure that there is something, maybe like a huge nest for souls. I don't know. It's really, it's so interesting to think about it. I can't name it, but I think it's really a huge darkness we're all floating in. That's something we really also put into words in our song Pathos. The lyrics say it pretty clearly, but it's like we're all connected. And water or blood is something that connects us, all of us. It's actually, the blood that runs through the veins of this earth. So this interconnectedness we have is something we share, also by every living being dependent on water.
And now we are at the element of fire, which is represented in Wings of Ember. How is that element present on the album?
It also comes in different shapes. I mean, fire is an element that is so nourishing, and we as humans wouldn't be in this very state if we wouldn't had made use of fire, if we didn't learn to tame it. I mean, very often we cannot. Still, it's such a deadly and untamable element, and I think that's really, really exciting to think about. Yeah, we kind of put the untamed forces of fire and the wilderness of youth together and put it into that album. So that's really the soul of the album, like the wilderness, the untamable childhood, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, of course, like the soothing we as humans, of course, also children and young people need. But I also include adults because we need that as well. We need warmth. And a fire needs to be nourished too. And that's such a nice connection, actually, between those two components, like really wild and untamable and even deadly side fire has, but also it needs to be nourished. So if there's nothing, it won't burn anymore. Yeah.
So how would you then, in that sense, nourish that fire?
Do you mean in terms of ourselves?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a block of wood. But
yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think that's humans need to thrive, and we need to nourish that inner fire for sure. And it's actually pretty simple. I think we can nourish it by living the most connected lives to ourselves as possible. So in my opinion, that would really be having connections to other people, to other humans we are close to. We need to care for, and we need to be cared for. So it's really like interdependent. We're not made to be lonely or to sit alone somewhere. And we also need to really go outside, take deep breaths in nature, like fresh air, see the skies, hear the trees and the birds and everything around us, and be part of it, be really rooted and connected to our surroundings. And that's nothing, I assume, that can be, achieved when sitting in a house. Yeah.
So looking at the songs, because we're going to talk about a couple of them, you have the song Dawn of Mine, which you described as sort of an awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a little on what that awakening means?
So Dawn of Mine kind of represents really going through the gate, which is birth, and then coming to life, like really realizing, okay, I am alive, I am here, I'm taking my first breath, and everything that is around me is kind of nourishment to be alive. And Dawn of Mine goes a lot further, even though it really says that everything you are able to envision might happen. So kind of, it's really hard because it's so complex and kind of abstract. In defining kind of your own reality, you are also defining your future. So what is real, what is not? We have that going deeper in other songs, but Dawn of Mine is rather focusing on your surroundings. Like, is this, if I say it really simple, is this tree real? Is this, what do I see surrounding me? And especially having a look at the seasons and nature and natural cycles, Dawn of Mine accepts nature as a guide. So really going to the thought of nature. I am a part of nature. Me as a human, I am made of nature. I'm dependent on nature. So nature can destroy me in an instant, right? But also we can thrive from each other, and I can take part of its cycles, and I can really walk my feet on the ground And every experience nature will give me with is incredibly not only useful, but very, very worthy. And Dawn of Mine is very, very much appreciating nature and self-acceptance. Like you see, it's quite complex and abstract, but it also shows that we define our surrounding, our reality by ourselves, and that's super empowering.
It is, absolutely. So I guess it's taking your own destiny into your hands, and you can learn from nature and make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And also, in nature shows us that everything is set already. I mean, I think it's one of the weirdest things of human nature to try to fight death, because death is something so natural. And instead of using your time in hunting for something that is, not about to happen, i.e., not dying, you should try to seize the time and live to the fullest. And of course, you have to define what that means. But I mean, life and death, day and night, all these kind of opposites are so big and so important in nature. There wouldn't be light without the darkness. You wouldn't appreciate it, right? So you wouldn't appreciate spring probably when there wasn't like a long winter before that. And all these kind of cycles and components and opposites kind of inspire and actually make us stronger and make or create a huge appreciation for those things. And yeah, that's really beautiful. Also, what is really important for me in seeing the aspects of nature, and especially Dawn of Mine, is the silence we also have in the song. So the song is also very contrary, and these kind of very naked vocals and then really harsh sounds. It kind of shows that if you're overwhelmed, go and seek silence. You won't find solutions any different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very, very valid point, I think. Dawn of Mine as sort of, an awakening and an early stage in life. Do you think that the younger you are, maybe as a child, you are more rooted in nature?
I think so. What a lot of modern cultures kind of do is train their kids to be controllable. And so I think when children, of course, they have to learn a lot. Don't get me wrong. I really do know that. And I think that's really important. But I also think that human children already, or overall children, I mean, look at animals, they are very competent at the beginning already. And I think children, babies, human children are too. So I think they are really rooted, actually. So they really are also very, very connected to their own intuition. And that's something so cool. So I really learned that with being a mother. I would never tell my daughter when she's full, when she ate enough, because she knows that, right? It's her body, she knows that. And that's really something I experienced and also learned when reflecting my own childhood. And it's kind of something that we need to relearn in our culture, in our modern culture, to have faith in children and actually to learn from them. Because when I go out with her into nature, I watch her experience everything, like with all her senses, and that's so beautiful. That's really amazing. That's inspiring.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we don't do enough. If you go out with indeed a child, they will say like, oh, there's a bug, or oh, let's smell this tree, or whatever. Maybe we should all do that.
Yeah, we're afraid of getting dirty, or walking barefoot, which is so, because our feet would get cold, you know. So what? It's like, and then they get cold, and then actually we know that by now. Science knows that by now. And then our body senses, okay, it's cold, because yeah, our feet have so many nerve endings, and they are so sensitive. It's actually good that they kind of feel that it's cold outside, because then our body can do something about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and all these things. So it's kind of, yeah, really amazing to learn freedom from children that are not kind of broken yet. You know what I mean? So it sounds so harsh, but it's my honest opinion.
There's a hypothesis, and it's called the extinction of experience. It says that people are really derooted as never before, and the more derooted you are, the less likely you are willing to protect or think about even protecting the natural world. How would you say that being separated from that natural world also affects living to your fullest potential?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, I really try to be as connected to nature as possible, yet I totally struggle with that myself, simply because, yeah, you know, I know I'm not seizing the time enough for those purposes. I must say, I would probably die in wildlife pretty fast, although I don't want to. And I wish I would have those skills. I can't say that, because I wish I would take the time to learn those skills, because I can learn the skills. All of us can, but we don't take the time, right? Or we don't seize the opportunities. And I totally agree on this extinction of experience theory. I mean, we're not made, like most people today live in huge cities, and the amount of people living in huge cities is increasing, right? I mean, I remember having a show in Brazil, and we flew over Sao Paulo, and it was crazy because it was like 20 minutes flying over a city with skyscrapers and stuff, and that was just something I never saw before. And I mean, I get it. Living in a city is really, really can be super handy. You have everything around you. You're fast at your job, etc. But I don't think that this is what we're made for. I don't think that we're made for sitting in an office watching or staring at a screen 24/7, kind of, you know, then going back home, eating something really quick, which is probably or was wrapped in plastic, we can't get rid of as humans, and which is wasting our planet. And then after that, we either go into a bar or we don't know, Netflix and chill. And it's, yeah, I see that sometimes, you know. I mean, at least I'm living at the countryside, something I chose to do. So it was really a choice, which I don't regret at all. I love that. Yet it's so hard to do something like really differently, or to not choose the car, or to, it's so comfortable. Our way of living is so comfortable.
That, yeah, maybe living in a city would be not the right description, but maybe the way we live life now in general. I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but it could kill, well, that inner fire.
I think so. Because I think, you know, the only thing, or what all these, especially social media platforms, really make you feel is that you want to live someone else's life. It really pretends that everyone's life is perfect except yours, or I have to improve in this and that. I have to, don't know. It's just random examples. Make more sports, do more, don't know, outdoor activities. I have to travel the world, etc. But you don't, it becomes a common narrative. You don't really question yourself, like, what is your desire? They can be really different. It's just another trend. And these trends are so fast living that we can't catch up. Our brains and our lives just cannot. So I absolutely do think that. And yeah, you've said, I also find it so sad that the more we are disconnected from what we or who we truly are, and we should see ourselves as part of nature. We descend from her. We once were monkeys on a tree, and then we developed into what we are now. But all the time between that, we were really living with the land, and now we're not anymore. And that's simply destroying not only the nature but also ourselves, and that is so stupid.
A lot of this is also reflected in the song Two Staves. It is about, yeah, can I say that it is about climate change or?
Yes, pretty much. It's about climate change and how we receive it, I would say. We actually questioned ourselves, like, how do we handle it, and the big fear, of climate crisis and what it will do to the planet and how it will affect our lives, and why people do not or are not willing to change anything, but rather deny it. Because that's something, I really cannot understand. Like, why do you deny it when there is like so many proofs? And of course, I know that people would do it because it's an easy thing. And I'm not standing there with like pointed fingers and like, you have to do that and you have to do that. I can improve myself a lot. Yet, I think and that's probably the most important sentence in the lyrics is that all is led by fear. And fear can be a melody. It can make you, like really motionless and unwilling to change everything because you're so afraid of, I don't know, losing your smartphone or like the comfort life gives you, which is absolutely understandable. Yet there is no choice, we cannot go on like we are now.
So in that sense, it's not a positive message, or is it?
It kind of is, because I think, and that's what comes after the sentence with fear, we have to accept that there are no gods. We have to pray too. It's on us to change everything. So, and that's something I firmly believe, we really have it in our own hands to change things. It's small habits, but if every human does that, it would change for the better. And we should probably not, at least in Germany, I really see that, not put all our faith in politics, but rather in taking action ourselves. And it's tiny, small things. And here's a good side of modern culture, because there are so many good apps and guides on the internet that tell you, like, okay, I don't know, wash your laundry at 30 degrees, just an example, and it will make a huge difference.
Yeah, I guess there is a little hint of activism in there, like, let's get our shit together and do something about it.
Absolutely. It's really like connect with people. I mean, I think, or in a different life, I probably would have become an activist, like a really strict one. But I don't know. I'm kind of really putting our activism in our music here, and the whole band is having the same message here, which is really nice. And you can already make really changes for like within your small circle. I remember I became a vegetarian, I think that was 11 years or 12 years ago, and no one was in my circle, my family, none of my friends. And then all of a sudden, we talked about that, and I was never like telling people to stop eating meat. I don't care what other people eat. I decided for myself. But by now, like, I have 3 brothers and my parents, and if I only look at those, it's only 1 person left eating meat. And that's quite amazing, It's so good to actually see that when you talk to people, when you interact, when you connect, that's what humans are made for. Then you kind of can feel a difference. And that's actually really what also, Two Staves says, like everything can fall into place.
That is a better message than then we're all doomed to die.
Yeah, a lot. I really don't want to think that. I mean, for the sake of nature, for the sake of all living beings, and I include animals, plants, us humans, of course, and for the sake, of course, of all the children on this planet, I don't want to believe that we're doomed to die. That's something I cannot accept. I will do my best and actually not contributing to this message.
In the music genre that you and I know, and this is actually what is a little bit the foundation of why I started doing this podcast, but we see, or at least I think I see some kind of opposite movement in the sense that a lot of artists, they are exploring older religions, they are exploring nature. We actively seek to reconnect in various ways. Do you think that music can be a tool for that and not just inside that bubble that we know?
I think music is the one tool for that, to be honest. Because I also remember when I was 15, I was born and raised in southern Germany, so everything is super religious there. And I was also, baptized and everything. And no one in my surroundings or from my friends was kind of questioning that. It was just normal and you would just do that. But I remember really being 15 and on the seek for some purpose, for some deeper questions I have had in myself, and I still don't know where they came from. Probably it was this one tiny hint of intuition and roots that was left within me. But I was going to the forests, just walking by myself, and then at some point I started listening to actually what was the first kind of album of Faun. It's called Licht, and it was just these kind of weird, I was listening to those rather weird spoken words on that album, but they kind of awakened something that was kind of a longing, I would say. So really these answers I was looking for and I didn't know what would be, and all of the sudden I felt more connected to nature. It was not only this music, but also other music, some Nordic folk, Gjallarhorn and Hetningana, so kind of really folky bands. And after that, I kind of found my way to Tool and Serrata prog bands, who also nourished this sense of longing. So I totally believe, and I'm so amazed that music can fill these gaps. Because we, especially as Europeans, we lost a lot of old knowledge, and just by being Christianized for so long, it really, these roots and this connectedness to earth got lost, unfortunately, but it's so good to see that it's not gone.
It's just looking for it, I guess. And a side note, but that's really cool that Faun did that for you and you ended up singing in that band. That must be crazy.
Yeah, it was absolutely, especially that because I only listened to that one album and I kind of lost sight, it was just that one album giving it to me, and I don't know, then I got to know Tool and Perfect Circle and all other post-rock bands and whatever, and that was more my cup of tea, still is. But yeah, that was so cool because it was that one album, and I don't know, I think probably 11 years later or something, I got a message from Ali, like, we're searching for a new singer, and I was like, what? That's so cool. So that's why I also feel very connected to Faun. It gave me a lot in my youth.
Yeah, you've mentioned like older traditions, older beliefs, and something that comes back into the song Fortress is female creation power. And that is something you then explore, and I would also say like the concept of a Mother Earth. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that is, reflected in that song?
So For Fortress, I really wanted to incorporate some Old High German. It's the language I also ranted about a lot already because I just love it. And I think it has a very mystical, ancient vibe to it. It's not spoken anymore. So yeah, we have a lot of dictionaries and translations, and it's a language that varies a lot from region to region. But I found Bisopona Gebet, so that's an old prayer, which kind of shows the beginning of Earth. And we already put that into words on our first album in Suna, but I took a tiny exception of it into Fortress because we didn't have it in Suna, and it's actually the prayer to God that God created earth and skies. And in Fortress, as we are looking on the creation or the creative power of the female, and that it's actually the female creating life and giving birth to it, it's the child that grows within a woman. And it's a gift, it's really something super powerful. It's incredible. It's actually unbelievable that a body can do that. Yeah, I thought it was not the case that it was, or that God was given all these creative powers, but we should reclaim it back and give it to women. Actually, the whole song is an ode to women, not only mothers, but women. I think all women have these creative power in them, and it's amazing. It should be reclaimed and given back because it was, and a lot of women still are deconnected from that. It's really a force of nature. Women can be so tender, but they can be super powerful and untamable at the very same time, and that's amazing. It's impressive. I'm a woman, but I respect every other woman on this earth for exactly that.
We've talked about a lot of nature and how we think you should live your life, because we can't say that for anyone else. What do you teach your own kids in the sense of interacting with nature?
So I see old patterns within me and how I interact with her. Of course I do. For example, at first sight, like, really, no, don't jump into the mud pile, you will get dirty. But by now I really put that off and I don't care anymore. I'm really like, okay, go and experience that, because I did when I was a child too. So for all the physical experiences, I really want her to be as natural and self-conscious as possible, so she can decide if she wants to go somewhere barefoot. Of course, not on ice and snow, but as much as possible. I really want to also get her used to the opposites in nature, which I mentioned before. So the cycles, also day, night, light and darkness, and especially now, life and death. So we also had already lost a friend, and she's only 3, but she kind of really, you can tell that the whole topic death is already really interesting for her. She cannot grab it yet, which is supernatural for a child her age, but yet we tell her that someone, does not, like, death is nothing bad, it's something natural. Of course it can be sad, but it's natural. We go back to earth where we descend from. And that's something she accepted, like, really in a second. And that was so interesting to see that she also kind of repeats it and tells it other people. He went back to earth. And actually it's something, I think, the most beautiful way to describe that, because it's as simple as that, right? It's where we came from, so we go back to her.
Yeah, while you were saying it, I was thinking this is a very beautiful way to express that, and he or she went back to earth. And I think that really ties in nicely, with what will happen in Tvinna's universe, because there's still like water and air and earth to explore.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to see and read and how you will connect these elements with the human experience. Can you give some hint of what you envision for those two elements?
Yeah, definitely. So I have to say first that I'm still very much wrapped up in fire and two wings of Ember, of course. Still a lot on my mind. Yet I already have, even if I only think about it like for a short time, but I already thought about it like a little bit more, I have to say, because it's of course an ongoing process, especially when you write other albums. Like, what will you incorporate on the first two ones, and what is for the other twos? For the next one, so for Earth and Air, or also the next two chapters of life, I already envision like a lot of passion, actually. I don't know. I think it's very upfront in the second half of life, or the next chapters. So like really being passionate, really letting loose and finding yourself, consciousness, what is kind of coming to life when you really dare to be yourself. There will be a lot of themes about wisdom. I think what is also the more, especially for me as an adult now, is a big topic, is actually fear. Like, I'm way more afraid of things or of losing stuff than I used to be as a child, which is super, yeah, I don't know. I think that's exciting to think about and to reflect on. And of course, we'll certainly handle on sexuality and where we go here, get rid of old patterns or old beliefs. Like, I've teased that in that album, like that topic, sin is man-made. It's really, and especially around sexuality, it's super Christian. And yeah, I think it will handle a lot on this, and of course death. Yeah.
All right, I'm looking forward to follow up on those.
Yeah.
So thank you for explaining a bit what is beneath the surface with Tvinna and your very open answers.
Thank you so much. It was really, really fun to go into depth on these super complex topics. It's some of them are so not grabbable. It's sometimes really hard to put them into words because it's also a lot of philosophy and like really questioning things. And yeah, we will see.
Definitely check out Tvinna's new album, 2 Wings of Ember. There are some links in the description where you can stay up to date on the upcoming episode, which will come out in a couple of weeks. And I really hope that you will tune in again.